What's up guys, welcome to another mymotiongraphics tutorial. My name is Gustavo Maya and today I'm going to be showing you how to make this. Today I'll be working on a Mac using Cinema 4D R14 and let's quit with the chit chat and let's get started. Okay, so here we are in Cinema 4D. First things first, so let's open up our render settings and choose a preset. Let's go to something like HDTV. Okay, close this up for a minute and let's create a MoText over here in MoGraph, MoText. Okay, go into Objects, set the alignment to middle, go into our text, write something that you like and change the font to something that you also like. I'm going to something like this and going to black. Okay, increase the depth, so this is the depth over here. I'm going to something around 80, right? And for the sake of simplicity, let's in the display menu over here, let's choose something like quick shading lines and make sure you have wireframe checked over here, so like so. And this is so we can see the polygons a little bit better. And let's change our caps, and our caps is basically well, I'm going to change and you'll see. So on start let's choose fillet cap and on the back the same. Okay, so increase the radius to around 10 on both of them. Okay, like so. And let's increase the number of segments over here and make it rounding, like not rounding but rounded. So over here on steps, let's just increase these to around maybe 5. 5 may seem good. And this is the number of segments that that you have over here. So one quick advice: don't push this up like so. No, this is wrong, because you should always have the least polygons possible. Basically, the number of polygons, the more polygons you have, the more render time your final output will have as well. So make sure you have clean, simple polygons, and just increase them if needed. Okay, so if you need more geometry, just increase a little bit, but for now I think 5 will be okay. Okay, now I have this type over here. I'm going to increase the spacing a little bit so the text doesn't overlap that much. So let's come over here to where it says object, and on the horizontal spacing let's just increase a little bit like so. Okay, maybe one more, and now it looks good, right? Okay. Great, now let's create a material. Let's choose bluish colors like so, maybe a little bit darker, like so. We'll change this afterwards. Let's head into basic and uncheck specular. We won't need it for now. And drag the material into the MoText. Okay. Let's call this MoText back, and I'll show you why later. Let's as well create another material, so Command or Control, click and drag, and you have a duplicate material. Let's select kind of a white color. I tend not to go to pure white because it's not very natural to things to be pure white. So anyway, let's click and drag our material into our object, and now we have like a white text, but this is not what we want. We want this text or this texture over here to be applied only to the caps on the front. So for that, let's go on to our texture tag, and on the tag, how's it? This is called whatever. Here on tag, on selection, just type C, capital C, okay, C1, and this is what happens. Okay, so on the back we need to do the same thing. Basically, just drag the same material onto the back object, and over here in selection, do the same thing, but instead of 1, just type C2. Okay, now looking good, looking pretty good. Let's add some animation. So make sure you have your object selected. Go into MoGraph effector and plane effector. Okay, now this plane effector is actually making all of the object move to 100 centimeters in the Y direction, and that's definitely not what we want. So let's head into fall off, and where it says shape, let's choose linear, and you get this thing over here, which has an arrow, a yellow arrow over there. Let's just see if you can take a better look at it. Okay, so now we need to rotate this like so to the right, I guess. Okay, I never know which one. So actually it is to the other way around, so never mind, just rotate it 180 degrees. Okay, so basically our yellow arrow should point to the left. Okay, this arrow over here pointing to the left. Alright, now when we move this around like so, we see our animation taking place. Okay, so let's add some keyframes. Let's bring this over here like so. Add a keyframe in the 0 on the keyframe, on the first keyframe, but before that make sure you uncheck these squares over here, these things, because we don't want to add keyframes in the scale or in the rotation of this plane effector. We don't want that, so let's just uncheck that. And so when we add keyframes, we don't have keyframes that we don't need. And let's go into the 50 frame, the frame 50, and click and drag this until our text fits, like so, more or less like so. And remember to add another keyframe. Okay, so now when we press play, this happens. Okay, so let's go into our plane effector and just tweak some values over here in parameter tab. And so I don't want the text to come from the top. I want it to come from the bottom. So let's just do it like so, and maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit more, and maybe let's just type -300, and probably this looks good. Okay, now let's add some scale. Let me pause this right in the middle somewhere. Let's add scale and check uniform scale. Okay, so now what we're going to do is type -1, and this means that whatever part of the object that's left from the right part of this red square, it will become it will disappear. It will be so small that it disappears. So let's just see that. There you go. Okay, so this is happening right now. Okay, the text is coming from the bottom, and it comes from so small that it doesn't really exist to the size that you see right here. Okay, now let's add some rotation as well to give it a little bit more interest. And right now I'm just adding some values. I'm not sure what I'm looking for. I'm probably going to pause this for now around here and just just add some rotation, and let's hit play. Okay, like so, it looks good. If you think that your animation is running too fast, you can increase the space between these two keyframes just by clicking on one and dragging it outwards, so like so, and now it's faster. Okay, right. Let me just adjust this a little bit because the animation is only taking place around the 18 frame. Let's just move this a little bit like so. Okay, like so, and just add a keyframe. Okay. Alright. Bring this keyframe around 50 once again. And it's looking good. Now what we're going to do is duplicate this back object over here. So Control, click and drag, or Command, click and drag if you're on a Mac, and rename it to front. Okay, I'm going to put this on top. It doesn't really matter, just for the sake of simplicity. And I'm going to hide this one for now, the back one, and I'm going to edit the front one so it looks a little bit different. So on caps, I'm going to reduce the radius to around 5 and change the fillet type from convex, which is this one right here, to a half circle. And immediately I guess you understand what's happening, which is this kind of rounding shape. And if we activate the other one, the front one will be hidden with the back one, so they are overlapping, and because the back one is bigger than the front one, we actually won't see the front one anymore. So let's just hide this for now once again and create another material, and let's call this material glowing red or something like that. Let's change the color to somewhere between orange and red. Let's go into basic, deselect specular, we don't need it for now, and add a luminance channel. Go into your luminance channel and change the color again to somewhere around an orange, something like so. And because the luminance adds this kind of flat color, we're going to reduce the brightness of it a little bit, like so, maybe like so. And I'm going to leave it like this for now. We probably will change this a little bit later on when we add some lights, and that's the best timing to change your materials. So click and drag the glowing red material, which actually it's kind of orange, but you know, who cares, into our blue texture tag on the front object. Okay, and this is what happens. Now if we activate the back one once again, select the front one and just bring it a little bit further, we can see clearly what's happening. Okay, but still I'm going to undo because I still want it to be hidden for now. Okay, so let's rename this action, so this effector, let's call it, we can call it 1 for now, or maybe back. Okay, and let's duplicate this one. Okay, and call it front. Right. Now the reason why I duplicated this is only because I already have these keyframes checked, so that's basically the only reason why I duplicated. But because actually I'm going to change all of these parameters. But before I do that, there's a couple things I must do. And this front effector will only affect the front text. So let's go into letters and make sure you have your front text selected, your letters tag selected, and bring the front. Click and drag and drop it below the back one. Okay. So with that being said, let's select again our front effector and click and drag over here and select all of these or both of these keyframes. Make sure they are in this orange color and click and drag a little bit to the right, somewhere around maybe here, doesn't really matter for now. Okay, like so. Now what we need to do is to change these parameters. So we've changed the we've set where this will actually take effect, which is on the front. We offsetted the keyframes, and now we're going to just change some of these values because we don't want this to have the same animation than the previous one. So let's zero out all of this, uncheck scale and uncheck rotation, and just let's push this a little bit to the front like so. And what happens is this. Okay, so once again, all I did was to uncheck the scale and the rotation and leave the position with these values. So minus 30 or not minus 3, sorry, minus 30, 30. Okay. Great. And this is what happens. So one animation, one effector, second effector. But I want the opposite thing. No, I want the opposite. I want the letters to come outwards, not inwards. And to change this is really simple. I just need to click over here and rotate 180 degrees with the shift selected, with the shift pressed, so it snaps between 10 degrees over here and 180 degrees. That's okay, and now it should be running good. Now one final adjustment, as you can see over here, this first one is still how do you say, in the front, no problem. Let's go into our first keyframe. Make sure you still have your front effector selected. Go into your move tool and just move it a little bit to the left until it disappears, like so. Make sure you're still on your first keyframe and click over here. Just record another keyframe on top of that previous one. So now everything is running good. Okay, let's check it once again. Great. Now for our final touch regarding the MoGraph, make sure you have both of your Mo text selected and go into MoGraph effector and delay. Okay. Now we're going to add a little bit of not add, but just tweak some parameters. So just your delay selected, go into effector, and where it says blend, change it to spring, and maybe increase the strength a little bit. Okay, and we're pretty much done, but still I think they are bouncing way too much. And to change this, you need to go to this backed effector parameter and decrease a little bit this value, or increase, basically just make it around 220, maybe 200 or minus 200, something like so. Okay, and I don't know what happened. This delay is sometimes tricky, so deactivate it and activate it once again. Oh, that's what happened, not 30. Okay, it's just a delay effect, or sometimes it's a little bit tricky. I think this is a tiny bug or something like that. As you can see, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't if you're making changes, but you know, don't need to concern about that. Just check and uncheck position and everything will go back to where it's supposed to be, so don't really, you know, don't worry with that. Okay, so our animation is done for now. Make sure you follow our next part where we'll add some lightning in, add some materials, or maybe tweaks the materials a little bit, and of course make the camera animation. So make sure you follow our next tutorial, and I'll see you in a minute.